sail across the sea. That's where we will be, having breakfast with Bob
and Poncho Man.
Good man.
Hey everybody, welcome to Aloha Friday. EAS Myoplex, Polar, Hoka, One Velofix, Normatec, Four Seasons, Hualalai, and of course Aero Power Breather. Those are our sponsors. My next guest, the author of Fast-Track Triathlete. How about that little photo dig for you there, Mr. Matt Dixon. How you doing, man?
Welcome, Bob. Thank you very much. Thank you for having me again.
Well, it's less than 24 hours away. You've got a fair number of Purple Patch athletes out there, including new daddy Jesse Thomas, Sarah Piampiano, and Laura Siddell. So you've got your hands full.
It's going to be busy, and 31 amateurs as well. So they're the ones that deserve as much credit as well for being here on the island, which is going to be great.
About.
Yeah.
So you raced yourself back in the day as a pro.
I did. Well, yeah, I'm a great example of how to do a professional career poorly, but I did race here as a pro as well.
Did you race here as a pro?
I did race here as a pro, yeah. Don't go and look up my time, please. It was a little bit of a slow jog.
Light stick? No light stick.
No light stick.
See?
No,
that's all that matters.
No. Came in the daylight. Came in the daylight.
Came in daylight. Wearing, making sure the sunglasses were down because it's so bright out there.
It was a great swim and then a steady decline from there.
What led to moving into the coaching side?
Well, my family sort of comes from a coaching background, at least a swimming teaching background, and my brother's a teacher, so I think that we both have this sort of this educational side, this passion for teaching. And my background was exercise physiology, so I was an exercise physiologist and had a background in sports, but in elite swimming and then triathlon, of course. But I really got my coaching started in swimming, in age group swimming, and spent several years as an age group swimmer and then a university, Division I university swimming coach, and loved it, fell in love with it, but knew I didn't want to be a swim coach. Found triathlon, participated in triathlon, turned professional, had a professional career of sorts, as we mentioned, and then it was a natural dovetail. And it was really a journey that started for me getting into coaching and ultimately starting Purple Patch.
What I was impressed with, I was up there for a running clinic that CEF was putting on, and watching your guys running, and you had elite guys out there, you had people obviously who were just getting into sport, that the community that you've developed through Purple Patch is pretty special.
I think it's central to us as it's really the heartbeat of our company. I mean, we have virtual coaching. We coach athletes all over the country, all over the world, but I think it's really important that it's still grounded in a destination, and there's a real training squad. And you're right, the training squad, we mix them all in. So at one end of the pool or one lane of the track, there are our elites, and they're doing their thing.
Right.
And they actually diffuse any opportunity for ego across the rest of the squad, and that makes it sort of a nurturing environment, a very accepting environment. And it goes all the way down to people that are not just aspirational to finish an Ironman or something like that, but people that actually have never done sprint triathlons and just are on their first steps of the journey. And it's great. It becomes a sort of a joy for me to coach every day in real hands-on coaching.
The other side of it, you've got someone like an Alan Shankin, who's amputee, running a leg amputee. Then you also have Muhammad Lana, who took a bronze medal last year in the para-triathlon.
Yep.
When those athletes are out there participating, somehow the whining quotient drops a little bit.
Well, it does. You know, Mohammed is, I just said to you, is one of my favorite athletes I've ever coached. And, you know, Mohammed was effectively born without a femur.
Right.
And so he just has a tibia-fibia, sort of a little leg hanging off his hip. So he has no use of that. And yet he has nothing but enthusiasm, nothing but a smile, nothing but actually integrating best habits possible to create best performance. And when you have someone like that who would never, ever, ever complain, he would only look forward of how can I improve, it's very, very hard to someone to moan about a little sore throat or a little bit of fatigue. And so it's people like him. And we have another woman, Marina, who joined us. And when she joined, she couldn't walk up a flight of stairs. She had such chronic fatigue from overstress in life, overstress in her training. And she's lost 100 pounds and just finished her first half Ironman. Well, having that in conjunction where Sarah Piampiano is trying to get ready, or Laura Siddell is trying to get ready for the Hawaii Ironman, that sort of really diffuses any culture of ego, and realizing that ultimately everyone's trying to do the same thing, which is improve. And so, yeah, it works very well.
Fast-Track Triathlete, and we chatted about this in a podcast not that long ago. We see a lot of people who come into the sport and they sort of self-coach themselves and decide, well, we know the top swimmers swim 30,000 yards a week, and we know the top cyclists ride, 200 to 400 miles a week, and we know top runners run 50 to 100. I'll just put them all together and become a triathlete.
Yep.
And there is a feeling that I need to blow off the family, blow off my job, and become a professional / age group triathlete.
Yep.
And you're trying to demystify that and let people know that you can do this in 11, 12 hours a week.
Yeah, you can. And look, this book is not for the world-class triathlete looking to win Hawaii.
No.
This is, I don't train Sarah Piampiano with the same number of training hours that we're saying that you should adopt in here. But the outcome that I think most amateurs have, or at least should have, is yes, they want athletic performance. Yes, they want to successfully get ready for events like this, but not at the cost of your health, your life, your work performance, etc. And it is, if you adopt smart habits, you have a dynamic training program that can synchronize and ebb and flow with the craziness of life, it's absolutely possible that you can achieve the results, improve, but also thrive in the other areas of life. And to be honest, this is the second book. This is really out of the Well-Built Triathlete, the first book. This second book is specifically written for that athlete that is searching of how to integrate this sport into a busy life, but actually ultimately get results in all of those areas. And that's really the aspiration. And it's not magical. It's very pragmatic. It's very sensible. And the reality is, this is just what we do. So this isn't theory. This is all I'm doing is peeling back the curtains and say, hey, we've had success. We work with a lot of very busy athletes. We work with a lot of CEOs that have crazy schedules. And this is how, with a bit of out of the box thinking, this is how we've done it. And we've got good results, and I believe in sharing. And hopefully this disrupts, it creates conversation and creates discussion, so that the sport can lose some of the stereotypes of obsession and athletic performance at the cost of life performance, which I think is very short-term thinking.
So when you have athletes who come over here, and we were just chatting about this not long ago, is most of these people are balancing their lives and family and everything else. Then they have this free block of time on the most beautiful island on the planet, and there's bike is sitting right there, my running shoes are right there, and it's 8 in the morning, I've already done a swim, bike, and run, but I can do it again and again and again. How do you keep the governor on to keep people from frying themselves before race day?
Well, I check an extra bag with a host of whips in and keep them shackled. But no, that's it. It's there's an element of worry and fear, natural fear, because it is a demanding race. It is a challenging race. And so people seek validation. And so it really starts before you get on the island. You have to have the race plan out there. They already have to know what they need to do. And as they go through the training process, I really believe in trying to help athletes understand the intent of the training that they're doing, and empower them to make smart decisions. So the habits are already ingrained. Then when they arrive here, the message is not, don't do anything. Doing something special is doing nothing special. In other words, keep doing the habits and doing what you know works. And if an athlete is not just beholden to a coach, but understands what the coach is trying to execute, and then they're much more likely to adhere. And so we actually don't have too many problems with that, because we start that process right when they start their journey. And we just have them start to understand themselves, start to know what works for themselves, and then the big message is, don't detour, don't detract, don't change, just keep going with the same rhythm. And hopefully most of them listen.
Yes. Confidence is such an important aspect of coming into this race, especially from the professional side. Someone like Jesse Thomas, he goes to Chattanooga, thinks he's all ready for a great one, doesn't have a great one.
Yep.
How important was it for him to go to Augusta, have a great race, and feel that, I can perform well in Kona, I'm racing well?
Yeah, I mean, Jesse's a confidence athlete as well. I mean, he's one of the most pragmatic and smartest athletes I've ever coached. And so the good thing about that from a coaching standpoint, there's nothing revolutionary with what I do with Jesse, but but he understands himself very, very well. And what happened at Chattanooga is he was very, very fit, but he hadn't raced for 5 months. You cannot go and race the very best in the world,
World Championship, yeah.
at the World Championships, and shake the rust off and hope to have a fantastic performance. So it was a reality check for both of us, and there were decisions made in lieu of this being his primary race. And so we felt like it was important for him to go to Augusta, do another race, not less for confidence, but more to be primed for this race.
Get the rust out.
And get the rust out and help him. And so our plan there was to go and ride the bike very, very hard, show himself that he was fit, he could ride the bike, and then run sensibly. And I said the only caveat of running sensibly is if you're winning the race, then you take the win. Oh, he was winning the race, you know, and I thought, oh God, okay. So, but he managed to run pretty sensibly, and he won the race, and arrives here with great confidence again,
Yes.
and knowing that he's done the work, and knowing that he's fresh, and in the crapshoot is having a baby 2 days ago or 3 days ago, which makes it's an interesting challenge.
Yes.
But it's wonderful for him. If anyone can pull that off,
Right.
he's the guy for sure.
So Sarah Piampiano had a real job, working 80, 100 hours a week, and decides she wants to be a professional triathlete.
Yep.
And when she places the call to you and says, you know, she did research, Matt Dixon's the best, I want to work with him, and your response to her was?
No.
Because
I at the time, oh, I still do, but at that time I had a lot of athletes, a lot of, you know, my sort of pro squad and elite amateur squad was full.
Pretty full.
And I care about quality, and I didn't just want to add someone on a whim. And I think her best result at the time was something like 4th in her age group at Chicago Triathlon, or, you know, whatever it was, and worked at HSBC and was very, very busy, and said, I want to be professional. Well, it's easy to say that. The difference being when I said no, and I had a conversation, I gave her advice and said, this is why. And everyone else had said to her, you should turn pro and you should do it. And I said, you're not ready to turn pro, I can tell you, so no. And so she flew to San Francisco from New York and said, I want to have a coffee with you. And I sat down with her, and within 10 minutes I just thought, I've got to coach this girl. And she is a force of nature. And if you want to talk about professional, doing the sport well, and knowing this is a sport that you do have to make a lot of sacrifice if you are unapologetically going after world-class performance, she's done everything in her power to deliver herself to what she is today, several years later, world-class. And it's been great.
And Laura Siddell?
Another great story.
Engineer, right?
An engineer, age group triathlete, living in Australia, does well, wins the World Championship as an age grouper. Before she was being coached by me, and thought, you know what, I've got one chance. I'm 33 or so, and so she came up for a week, hung out with us for a week, came on board, left Sydney, came and joined me in San Francisco for a couple of years. Went from age grouper. A lot of challenge for us as a team to get the recipe right.
Yes.
And now the results that she's had this year with, I can't even remember how many Ironman races she's done this year. I think this is going to be number 6, and she keeps being on the podium. She's just had a wonderful season. But that's, she owns that. That's her reward for the journey she's been on over the last 4 years. It's nothing special we've done this year. She's just layered and layered and layered, found out what works for her, and now the results come to fruition. And bizarrely, you would think, I think she's raced, 12 races this year, many more than the typical recipe, but she is a unique physiological athlete, and she arrives here emotionally and physically fresh. And that's the biggest story I get with her is, she races all the time. She must be fatigued, but she's not fatigued. She's a beast. She's an absolute beast.
When I look at, I was interviewing, I forget who I was interviewing, Matt Russell, I think, and he's done 43 Ironmans or something like that. And you're thinking about it, oh my God, Dave Scott in his career did 11.
Yeah.
Does it concern you when some of these pros or age groupers are just doing these things like they're running a 5K? I don't think Meb Keflezighi's run 43 marathons in his career, right?
Absolutely
over 20 some years. does that concern you, especially with the pros, that they're going to burn out?
Well, 100%. It has to be done. So firstly, you have to know the athlete. The athlete
Right.
needs to know themselves. So someone like Sarah Piampiano that we spoke about could never absorb that type of racing schedule. Jesse Thomas, absolutely not.
No, yeah.
Absolutely not. So there is an element of understanding how they respond physically. And then the secondly is how you do it. And so after every one, you have to absolutely commit. Firstly, you don't do the same training into every Ironman. So you don't just rinse and repeat, rinse and repeat, rinse and repeat. Otherwise, it's just a steady hormonal decline. So the one thing that we've done very, very well with Laura is giving her a lot of very heavy breaks so that she can truly rest and recover. And we know that she can absorb a lot of training when she is training, but she doesn't need much training to get fit. So it's, but if her sole quest was the Hawaii Ironman, we'd build a different schedule.
Sure.
We'd build a different, but her goal, rightfully her goal with her stage of her career is to create a catalogue of results across areas, gain a lot of experience, and try and go podium hunting.
Sure.
That's a specific strategy. Whereas if we compare to Sarah, unapologetically, she has other key races in the year, but her whole year is rightfully now focused on this.
Right.
Because she's been top 10 for the last 2 years, and so has the appropriate emotional and practical and planning target of this race, and that's what we anchor it on. So it's not just throwing out the same recipe for every athlete, it's making sure you know the athlete and why you're doing something.
So some of your athletes, I mean, we have, obviously triathlon is a big part of it. But I know Alan Shankin was going off to do the CrossFit Worlds or Nationals or whatever. Yeah. So you're training people across platforms and using, I'm sure, a lot of the same formulas to get people ready for if they're doing a CrossFit Nationals or if they're doing the Ironman Triathlon.
I think with age group athletes, there's a natural identification of take out the people that are truly committed to triathlon and they're winning their age group and they want to come and win in Hawaii, and that, okay, that's an elite age grouper that has a very similar quest. But the majority of people that do this sport, it's a wonderful sport if applied well. And it's integrated. It's really healthy. It's all body. It's swim, bike, and run. There should be some strength and conditioning to be a better human being and some performance benefits. But people tend to solely identify as a triathlete.
Yes.
And I'm either on or I'm off. I'm either an Ironman or I'm not. And I think it's okay to use multi-sport training to get ready for a variety of different events. So if you do go to Boston, great, but you don't have to stop running, stop swimming and stop biking. Use that as a cross-pollination, as a benefit. We had a guy that did a 7-day circumnavigation running race around Mont Blanc. So basically doing a marathon a day for 7 days, and he was 65 years of age, and he had no running background. Well, how do you train for that and not get injured? You lean into swimming and biking, swimming for cardiovascular conditioning, biking for resilience, and then do enough running on soft surface.
So you know how.
So you know how, yeah. It's not that you're only, he wasn't running 10 miles a week, but very strategically so that we can keep him healthy. And he had a great time. But he wasn't trying to win it. He was trying to have a great time.
You know what's fascinating to me is when I look at, and one of my frustrations is high school runners, college runners, high school swimmers, collegiate swimmers, you are a swimmer, you are a runner, and they never mix in any of the cycling, even a spin type of class or swimming for the runners. And I think we all know that a lot of our triathletes started as single sport people and are probably just as good in that single sport by combining these other workouts.
Yeah, and especially in the developmental years. I mean, there's a great stat. People throw stats out. I think this is right, but I know it's something like 90 or 95% of collegiate athletes that get a scholarship were multi-sport in high school. So it's a staggeringly high percentage that when they actually go on to their chosen sport, they've done other sports.
Yes.
And that's across team sports, that's individual sports. And so even if you were a cross-country runner, it's a great thing to go and try different sports when you're in developmental age. I grew up a swimmer. Well, swimming, there's no more obsessive sport than swimming, especially when I grew up. And we were 5 a.m. in the morning, 2 hours of swimming, 3 till 4:30 in the afternoon, swim. And it's no wonder that I retired when I was 22. retire when you're 22. You're not near physiological development yet, but that's the
You're
common
fried.
story. You're fried. Emotionally, you've been looking at a black line. And so I think it's a wonderful thing in development to use different sports and to get used to moving in different planes and then specialize when it's appropriate.
I love it. Matt, congrats on the new book. It's called Fast-Track Triathlete.
Thank you,
Matt
Bob.
Dixon has been our guest. Poncho Man, take us out.
And I've been sailing on the sea. This is where we'll be, having breakfast with Bob.
Poncho Man!